What would you do if you heard someone walking above you every night in an apartment that's supposed to be empty? How would you react when you discovered the sounds matched your own movements exactly, but delayed by several seconds? And what if you realized you weren't hearing a neighbor at all but a recording of yourself from the future? My name is Daniel Foster, and I moved to Portland, Oregon 6 months ago for a software engineering job at a startup downtown. I'm 31 years old, recently single after a 5-year relationship ended, trying to rebuild my life in a new city where I don't know anyone. The apartment I rented is in the Pearl District, a trendy area with converted warehouses and new construction. The building is only 8 years old, modern and well-maintained, with good soundproofing and professional management. I'm in Unit 412 on the 4th floor. It's a one-bedroom, about 750 square feet, with large windows overlooking the street. The rent is steep, but the location is convenient for work and the amenities are decent. When I signed the lease in April, the building manager, a woman named Carol Singh, mentioned that the unit directly above mine, 512, was vacant and being renovated. She said it might take a few months before a new tenant moved in, but assured me any construction noise would be limited to business hours. For the first 2 months, everything was fine. I heard occasional construction sounds during the day, hammering and drilling, but nothing disruptive. The building was quiet at night, which I appreciated since I'm a light sleeper. I was settling into a routine: work during the day, gym in the evening, home to cook dinner and unwind with video games or streaming shows. Weekends, I'd explore the city, trying to make it feel like home. The sounds started on June 23rd. I remember the date because it was a Sunday night and I'd stayed up late finishing a project deadline. I was finally getting into bed around 2 a.m. when I heard it. Footsteps directly above me. Not loud, but distinct. Someone walking from what would be the living room area toward the bedroom in Unit 512. I paused, listening. The footsteps stopped. A moment later, I heard what sounded like furniture being dragged across the floor. A heavy scraping sound, like a couch or chair being repositioned. Then silence. I figured the renovation was finished and a new tenant had moved in. It was annoying that someone was rearranging furniture at 2 a.m., but it wasn't worth complaining about on the first night. I'd mention it to Carol if it became a pattern. It became a pattern immediately. Every night that week between 2 and 3 a.m., I'd hear the same sequence. Footsteps walking through the apartment above me, then furniture being moved. Sometimes it sounded like the same piece being dragged back and forth. Sometimes it sounded like multiple items being repositioned. The sounds would continue for 10 to 15 minutes, then stop abruptly. By Friday, I was exhausted from interrupted sleep. I went to the building management office during my lunch break. Carol looked surprised when I asked about the new tenant in 512. There's no one in 512. The renovation is still ongoing. But I hear someone up there every night. Walking around, moving furniture? That's impossible. The unit is empty. I can show you the renovation schedule. The contractors work Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Nobody's authorized to be there after hours. Then who am I hearing? Could it be from a different unit? Sound can travel strangely in buildings. Maybe it's coming from 513 or 511. No, it's directly above me. I can tell by the way the sound travels. Carol pulled up records on her computer. Unit 512 has been empty since February. The previous tenant, a man named Marcus Webb, broke his lease early. We've been doing updates ever since. New flooring, kitchen renovation, bathroom remodel. But again, no work happens after 5 p.m. Can you check if anyone has keys? Maybe someone's been accessing the unit without authorization? She looked concerned now. I'll check the key log and security footage. If someone's entering that unit after hours, that's a serious issue. I went back to work feeling slightly better. At least management was taking it seriously. But that night the sounds came again. 2:17 a.m. Footsteps. Furniture moving. The same pattern. On Monday, Carol called me. Daniel, I reviewed the security footage from last week. Nobody entered Unit 512 after business hours. The cameras cover all entrances and the hallway on the 5th floor. No one's been up there. That can't be right. I hear someone every night. I believe you're hearing something, but I can verify nobody is accessing that unit. Would you like me to have maintenance check the apartment? Make sure there's nothing structural causing sounds? Yes, please. 2 days later, maintenance entered 512 and did a thorough inspection. They found nothing unusual. No signs of entry, no structural issues, no animals in the walls or ceiling, no plumbing problems. The apartment was empty and undisturbed, with construction materials neatly stored and renovation work paused, but the sounds continued, every night. Always between 2 and 3 a.m. Always the same pattern. Footsteps, furniture moving, silence. I started recording the sounds on my phone. I wanted proof I wasn't imagining this. The recordings clearly captured the footsteps and scraping sounds. I could even make out a rhythm to the footsteps, a specific gait. 3 steps, pause, 2 steps, pause, turn, 3 more steps. The same pattern every night. I showed the recordings to my coworkers. Does this sound like footsteps to you? Most agreed it did. That would drive me crazy, said my colleague Jennifer. Have you tried going up there when you hear it? Knock on the door? I hadn't. The idea made me uneasy for reasons I couldn't articulate. But Jennifer was right. If someone was in that apartment, confronting them directly might be the only way to resolve this. That night, when the sounds started at 2:23 a.m., I grabbed my keys and went into the hallway. I took the stairs up to the 5th floor. The building was eerily quiet at this hour, just the hum of ventilation and distant traffic sounds from outside. I approached Unit 512. The door was closed, no light visible under it. I pressed my ear against the door and listened. I could hear the sounds clearly now, coming from inside the apartment. Footsteps, furniture scraping, definitely inside Unit 512. I knocked. Hello? Is someone in there? The sound stopped immediately. Complete silence. I knocked again, louder. This is Daniel Foster from Unit 412. I can hear you moving around. You're disturbing my sleep. No response. I tried the door handle. Locked. I stood there for 5 minutes listening. Nothing. The apartment was silent. I went back downstairs, frustrated and unnerved. I'd clearly heard sounds coming from inside 512, but whoever was there wasn't answering. The next morning, I called Carol again and told her what happened. She sounded genuinely worried now. Daniel, I'm going to have security do a full sweep of that unit today. If someone has been accessing it, we need to know how and why. That evening, Carol called me with the results. Security checked everything. No signs of forced entry. No signs anyone has been in the unit. The construction materials are exactly where they were last week. The dust on the floor is undisturbed. If someone was walking around in there, they would have left footprints in the dust. There are no footprints. Then what am I hearing? I don't know, but I'm going to have our building engineer evaluate the HVAC system and any other mechanical systems that might create sounds similar to footsteps. The engineer's report came back 3 days later. Nothing unusual in the building systems. No explanation for the sounds I was hearing. I started losing sleep, not just from being woken up, but from anxiety about what was happening. I'd lie awake waiting for the sounds to start, my heart racing, dreading the inevitable footsteps above me. One night, I recorded the sounds again, but this time I paid closer attention to the pattern. I realized something disturbing. The footsteps sounded like they were following a specific route through the apartment. Living room to kitchen, kitchen to bedroom, bedroom to bathroom. The same route I walked through my own apartment every night before bed. I tested this theory the next night. At 2 a.m., before the sounds usually started, I walked my normal evening routine. Living room to kitchen to get water, kitchen to bedroom to set my alarm, bedroom to bathroom to brush my teeth. I counted my steps and noted where I paused. At 2:19 a.m., the sounds started above me, and they matched my route exactly. 3 steps from living room toward kitchen. Pause. 2 more steps. Pause. Turn. 3 steps to bedroom. It was my exact pattern, my exact rhythm. Someone was mimicking my movements, or recording them and playing them back. I felt sick. Someone had been watching me, learning my habits, and was now recreating them in the empty apartment above mine. But why? What was the purpose? I started varying my routine. Instead of walking to the kitchen, I'd go to the bathroom first. Instead of pausing by the bedroom door, I'd go directly to the window. Different patterns each night, trying to see if the sounds above would change. They didn't. The sounds remained the same. My original routine played back at 2:19 a.m. every night, regardless of what I actually did. This meant the sounds weren't responding to me in real time. They were playing a recording. But a recording of what? And played through what mechanism? I asked Carol if I could access Unit 512 myself. I just want to see it. Maybe I'll notice something others missed. She was hesitant, but agreed, on the condition that building security accompanied me. We arranged to meet the next day at 3 p.m. The apartment was exactly as described, mid-renovation but clean and organized. New hardwood floors in the living room, partially installed. Kitchen cabinets removed, walls painted, bedroom empty except for a stack of drywall sheets. Everything covered in a light layer of construction dust. And as Carol had said, there were no footprints in the dust. The floor was completely undisturbed. "See," Carol said. "No one's been in here." But I noticed something she hadn't. In the living room, there was a slight depression in the dust pattern. Not footprints, but as if something heavy had been resting there and was recently removed. What was here? I pointed to the spot. Carol looked confused. "I don't know. Construction materials, maybe? Let me check with the contractor." Later that day, she called back. "The contractor says they removed an old cabinet from that spot 3 weeks ago. It had been part of the previous tenant's furniture left behind when he moved out. They finally disposed of it." "What kind of cabinet?" "A bookshelf, I think. Why?" "Just curious. Did Marcus Webb, the previous tenant, leave anything else behind?" "Now that you mention it, yes. When he broke his lease early, he left in a hurry. Took most of his stuff, but abandoned some furniture and boxes of personal items. The contractor has been gradually clearing it out during the renovation." "Where did those items go?" "Storage unit in the basement. We hold onto abandoned property for 60 days before disposal." "Why do you ask?" "I'd like to see what he left behind." Carol was skeptical but agreed. "I can show you tomorrow, but I'm not sure what you're looking for." The building's basement storage area was divided into caged units, each labeled with apartment numbers. Unit 512's cage contained 3 pieces of furniture and several sealed boxes. I examined the furniture first. A cheap desk, a floor lamp, and what looked like an old entertainment center. Nothing unusual. Then I opened the boxes. Mostly books, old electronics, kitchen items. But in the third box, I found something that made my blood run cold. It was a journal. Handwritten entries dating from November of last year through February of this year. Marcus Webb's journal. I flipped through the pages. The entries started normal. Daily observations, work frustrations, complaints about neighbors. But around December, the tone changed. December 8th. Can't sleep. Keep hearing sounds from the apartment below. Footsteps at all hours. Furniture moving in the middle of the night. The person in 412 has no consideration for others. December 15th. Talk to management about the noise from 412. They say they'll send someone to talk to the tenant, but the noise continues. Every night. Same pattern. Same sounds. Like they're doing it deliberately to drive me insane. January 3rd. Started recording the sounds. Need proof of what's happening. The tenant in 412 denies making noise, but I can hear them clearly. Walking around, moving furniture, always between 2 and 3 a.m. It's not random, it's deliberate. January 20th. I've figured out the pattern. The person below me walks the same route every night. Living room to kitchen, kitchen to bedroom, bedroom to bathroom. Same number of steps, same pauses. It's too precise to be coincidental. They're doing this on purpose. February 2nd. Can't take it anymore. Filed a noise complaint with the city. Management says there's no noise, that I'm imagining it. But I'm not. I've recorded it. I have proof. The tenant in 412 is harassing me and everyone is pretending it's not happening. February 10th, moving out. Can't stay here anymore. The sounds are driving me crazy. I hear them even when they're not happening. I dream about those footsteps. I need to leave before I do something I regret. The journal ended there. Marcus Webb had broken his lease 3 weeks later and left. I stood in the basement storage area, journal in hand, understanding finally dawning. Marcus Webb had heard the same sounds I was hearing now, but he'd heard them coming from below, from my apartment. He'd thought I was the source of the noise, but I'd only moved in 4 months ago, 2 months after he'd left. So who had been in my apartment when he lived above me? I checked the building records. Unit 412 had been vacant from February until April when I moved in. No tenant during the time Marcus Webb had been hearing sounds from below. Carol helped me access older records. Unit 412's previous tenant had been a woman named Sarah Chen. She'd lived there for 3 years and moved out in January, about the same time Marcus started complaining about noise. Did Sarah Chen hear sounds from above during her tenancy? I searched for any noise complaints filed by her. Found none. But I did find something else. Sarah Chen had filed multiple police reports during her last year in the apartment. Reports about feeling watched, about her routine being monitored, about someone knowing her schedule and habits. The police had investigated but found no evidence of stalking. Sarah had moved out voluntarily, citing anxiety about living alone. A pattern was emerging. Each tenant in Unit 412 experienced something disturbing. Sarah felt watched and monitored. Marcus, living above her, heard sounds from her apartment after she left. Now I was hearing sounds from Marcus's apartment after he left. But what was creating the sounds, and why did they reflect the previous tenant's movements? I spent the next week researching the building's history, learned that before it was converted to apartments, this had been a warehouse for a tech company that did data analysis and machine learning research. The company had gone bankrupt in 2015 and sold the property, which was then renovated into residential units. I found an article from 2014 about the company called Data Trace Systems. They'd specialized in predictive behavior modeling. Using sensors and AI, they could track people's movements and predict future behavior patterns. The technology had applications in retail, security, and smart home systems. But there had been controversies. Accusations of privacy violations. Lawsuits from employees who claimed the company had been testing their technology without consent. The company had denied everything, but the scandal had contributed to their bankruptcy. What if Data Trace had left behind more than just empty office space? What if they'd left sensors embedded in the building? Sensors that continued recording, that had learned tenants' patterns, that were now playing back those patterns somehow. It sounded paranoid, but it explained everything. Why the sounds matched previous tenants' movements, why they played at consistent times, why no physical person was creating them. I contacted the building's original construction company, the one that had converted the warehouse, asked if they'd removed any unusual equipment during renovation. The project manager, now retired, responded to my email. Yes, actually. We found a network of sensors throughout the building. Small devices embedded in walls, floors, and ceilings. The owner at the time told us to leave them in place, said they were part of the building's smart monitoring systems. We built around them. Those sensors were still active, still recording, and somehow still playing back recorded movement patterns. But that still didn't explain the timing. Why did the sounds play at 2 a.m.? Why always the same time? I checked the timestamps in Marcus Webb's journal. His complaints always specified between 2 and 3 a.m. Sarah Chen's police reports mentioned feeling watched, especially late at night, around 2 a.m. Something happened at 2 a.m. Some process triggered the playback. I decided to stay up and observe. Not just listen, but watch for anything unusual. At 1:45 a.m., I positioned myself in the middle of my living room with all lights off. I wanted to see if anything changed in my apartment at 2 a.m. At 2 a.m. exactly, I felt a subtle vibration through the floor. Then I saw it. Tiny LED lights, barely visible, flickering in the corners of my ceiling. I'd never noticed them before because I'd never been in complete darkness at 2 a.m. They were always hidden by ambient light from the street or my own electronics. The lights pulsed in sequence, creating a pattern. Data transmission. The sensors were communicating with each other at 2 a.m. every night, syncing their data. And during that sync, something was causing them to replay stored movement patterns audibly. It was a glitch, an unintended consequence of decades-old technology running autonomously, degrading, malfunctioning in ways its creators never anticipated. I reported everything to Carol and to the building owner. They brought in specialists who confirmed my theory. An extensive network of motion sensors throughout the building, all linked to a central system in the basement that was still operational despite DataTrace going bankrupt years ago. The specialists disabled the system. It took 3 days to locate all the connections and shut them down properly. The sounds stopped. The apartment above me was finally silent. But here's the thing that still bothers me. Before they disabled the system, the specialists pulled the data logs. They wanted to see what the sensors had recorded over the years. The logs showed something disturbing. The system had been recording movement patterns from units 412 and 512 since 2015, but it had also been transmitting that data somewhere, uploading it to an external server. The specialists traced the server. It belonged to a private research firm, one that had acquired DataTrace's assets after the bankruptcy. They'd been receiving data from the building for 9 years, studying behavior patterns of multiple tenants across multiple units. When confronted, the research firm claimed they thought they were receiving anonymized data from a retail location, not from people's homes. They immediately ceased access to the server and deleted all collected data, though there's no way to verify that. No laws were broken, apparently. The building owner had inadvertently consented when they kept the sensors active. The tenants, including me, had no idea we were being monitored. But technically, the sensors were disclosed in the building's Smart Home Technology clause, buried in page 17 of the lease agreement. I moved out last month, broke my lease and paid the penalty. But I couldn't stay there knowing what had been happening. Couldn't sleep in an apartment that had been recording my every movement for months, feeding my behavior patterns to some anonymous research firm. I'm in a different building now. Older, built in the 1960s, no smart home features at all. No sensors that I can find, no mysterious sounds at night. But I still lie awake sometimes wondering, how many other buildings have sensors left over from bankrupt companies? How much data is being collected and transmitted without anyone knowing? How many smart buildings are actually surveillance networks that outlived their creators? And I wonder about the sounds, the footsteps and furniture moving that plagued 3 different tenants across 3 years. Was it really just a glitch? Or was the system trying to tell us something, trying to show us that we were being watched, that our patterns were known, that our privacy was an illusion? I'll never know for sure. But I do know this. Before you sign a lease, read every word. Check for sensors. Ask what smart home technology really means. Because the walls might actually have ears, and eyes, and memory. And once they learn your pattern, they never forget. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more unsettling tales. Drop a comment below. Have you ever felt like your home was watching you? Ever noticed technology behaving strangely, like it knew more than it should? Share your experiences. And remember, every smart device is recording something. Every sensor is watching. The question isn't whether you're being monitored, it's whether you'll ever know who's watching. Sleep well.